Welcome back, everyone. In this lecture, I'm going to explain to you what registers are. So I'm just going to create a new assembly file to demonstrate this. You don't have to create this. It's just so I can keep it separate from our Hello World example. So what are registers? So essentially, guys, registers are places we can store numbers. Simple. So we have quite a lot of registers, okay? We have 8-bit registers, 16-bit registers, 32-bit registers, and 64-bit registers. So let's take an example. We have the AL register, 8 bits. We have the AH register, 8 bits. Okay? And we can move numbers into these registers, okay? It's much faster to work with registers than to move memory into RAM, for example. These registers are stored in the CPU, okay? And they are permanent. They exist in the hardware. So you can think of them like variables that are always there, okay? That we can set and read from. So what comes after AH and AL? Well, we have the AX register. Now this is 16-bit, but the AX register is very special. Now the reason it's very special is it actually contains the AH and AL register within it. So it's essentially AH ORed with AL, okay? So I suppose you could think of it like this, okay? So the AL register is the lower 8 bits, the AH register is the upper 8 bits, and together they make the AX register. Now why is this important? You could say something like move AX, 0x, FFF4, hexadecimal FFF4. In which case, the AL register will hold F4, the AH register will hold FF. Now that is a fantastic design, because it means we can change AH and AL by changing AX. And it works the other way around too. We could say move AH 0x F3. And let me zoom in a bit more for you now. So once we've done move AH 0x F3, then AX equals F3 F4. This is because by changing the AH register, we have changed the upper 8 bits of the AX register, which is here. Okay? Obviously, this bitwise shift to the right by 8 bits is just some pseudo code, right, to explain that. So AL is the lower 8 bits. AH is the upper 8 bits. Okay, so that is how you're able to change those registers. Now, as you know, I said it goes all the way to 64 bits. So what happens next, you might be wondering? Well, next we have the EAX register. And by the way, the AX register, EAX and things like that, they're usually used for arithmetic operations, okay? That's important to remember. So multiply, divide, things like that. Now, EAX, that's 32 bits, 32-bit register. Now, what does it compose of? It composes of the extension ORed with the AX register. So the AX register is the lower 16 bits, okay? And the E register is the upper 16 bits, okay? Now, unlike the AH and AL, you can't access the E separately, unfortunately. But that's just how the design works. So you can access the AX separately, which will give you access to the lower 16 bits of the EAX register, but you cannot access the E separately, which is the upper 16 bits. So with this example, you could say move AX, 0x, F4, F4, FF, FF. And then that will mean that AX will equal FFFF and E will equal F4, F4. Now remember, you can't access E separate. Okay, you can't. So make sure you remember that. So what happens next? It goes to 64 bits. So we then have RAX. RAX is a 64-bit register. Okay? It contains the R ORed with the EAX. So the R is the upper 32 bits. The EAX, as you know, is the lower 32 bits. So again, we could say move RAX, 0x, F4, 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 FF, 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 FF. And this will mean that EAX will equal FF, F, FF, FF, right? And the R, which also cannot be accessed separately, will be F4, 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 okay? So R cannot be accessed alone. Okay, so that is essentially how general purpose registers work in 64-bit assembly language. Now, we can do this for lots of other registers too. So the main ones are essentially AX, CX, DX, BX, okay? And they all extend upwards and downwards in the same fashion. So for example, CX has CH and CL. AX, as you know, has AH and AL. DX has DH and DL. BX has BH and BL. And again, these are 16 bits, yeah? Together they make 16 bits. And again, you have ECX, which is 32 bits, and you have RCX, which is 64 bits. So you notice the pattern, they all follow the same pattern, right? And we've already done the EAX, but I'll do it again so you can see. So it's EAX, 32 bits, and then you have the RAX, 64 bits. And then you have the EDX, which is 32 bits. You have the RDX, which is 64 bits. And you have the EBX, which is 32 bits, and the RBX, which is 64 bits. So the same rules apply to all of them, okay? So you can use these general purpose registers in exactly the same way as I explained the EAX. And guys, if you want this registers.asm, check the video description for a link to that repository, okay? And you'll find registers.asm within there, along with these explanations. So they're the general purpose registers. So the AX registers, you know, RAX, EAX, AX, AH, AL, they are for mathematical operations, i.e. division, multiplication, adding, subtraction, things like that, okay? And it's generally referred to as the accumulator register, okay? Next you have the RCX, ECX, CX, CH, and CL. Now these are generally used for counting, so things like loops, for example, okay? It can also be used for bit shifting operations as well. Again, these are just general guides. You don't have to use these registers for these purposes, but there are certain instructions in the CPU which will require you to use them if you call them, okay? So these are their specific purposes. Now, the DX registers, RDX, EDX, DX, DH, DL, they are pretty much used for data I/O. So think of things like the in and out instructions. Now what the in and out instructions do, you can't use them in a user program, by the way. The kernel will not let you. But at the kernel level, they have access to these instructions. They allow the kernel to write messages to hardware. So it could communicate with the graphics card, for example. It could communicate with the hard disk. And it essentially writes binary directly to the hardware devices. Now, while you can use assembly language that uses these instructions in a user program in Linux, if you try to execute it, the kernel won't let you, okay? It's set up memory protection mechanisms that stop you from calling in and out instructions, okay? So you're not allowed to do that. So that's what the RDX register is used for, essentially, guys, okay? So now we have the RBX, EBX, BX, BH, BL. Essentially, the RBX register and the BX register and so on, it's used with the expectation that a particular calling convention will be met. So any function or subroutine that changes the RBX register is expected to push it on entry and pop it on exit. Okay, now more will be explained on what pushing and popping means Essentially, we're pushing to a stack, popping from a stack, okay? More will be explained on that later. Expects a calling convention where we push and pop the register. Okay, so those are the general purpose registers. And we have a lot more of the registers. They all have different purposes. For example, we have the stack pointer, which is RSP, ESP, and SP. So SP is 16-bit, ESP is 32-bit, RSP is 64-bit. There's no 8-bit equivalent for this, okay? So the stack pointer essentially points to anywhere in memory, and you basically define it. You, the programmer, define it, or the kernel defines it. You decide where you want it to be in your accessible memory. And then anytime a push instruction is called, it will push some data to the stack, which will decrement this pointer, RSP, by the current word size. So if it's a 32-bit machine, it'll decrement it by 4 bits. If it's a 64-bit machine, it'll decrement it by 8 bits. So decrements by 1 word. If you pop, it increments by 1 word. Now, I know you're probably really confused. What is the stack? What is this? La la la. Don't worry, because this is an explanation of the registers, okay? We're going to get to this eventually, where there'll be an entire lecture explaining these stack pointers in detail. But before I can do that, you have to understand about the stack, okay? So just all you need to be aware of at the moment is that the stack pointer can point to anywhere in memory, and certain instructions will change its value. That's all you need to be aware of at the moment. We'll come back to what pushing and popping actually means. And you have the RBP register, EBP register, and BP register. Now, these point to an old stack pointer. Points to an old stack pointer. So you might be doing something, and then later on, you might want to restore whatever the old stack pointer was. You can use that register for this purpose. But you can also use it as a way of relative addressing on the stack. Can also relatively address on the stack. Now again, these concepts I don't expect you to understand at this point. This will all be explained in the stack lecture when the time is ready. You also have the RDI register, and it's used with certain instructions that might read strings from memory and things like that, right? So it's used to store the address of where we might move a large chunk of memory at once, okay? So it's 64-bit, and then we have EDI, that's 32-bit, and then we have DI, that's 16-bit. So guys, these short forms, these sub-registers, they work the same as the general purpose registers, okay? In case you didn't gather that yet. So RSP does contain the lower 32 bits, which are ESP, okay? And ESP contains the lower 16 bits, which is the SP register. They just don't go into the 8-bit range. They still go down to the 16-bit range, and that's the same for all of these registers that I've mentioned here, okay? So then we have the... Oh, let me put a little comment there. So used for string or data copying routines, instructions. So you could copy like certain memory regions, and it will be written into RDI wherever RDI is pointing in memory. So if that's pointing to like ZX1000 in memory as an example, it'll try to write to ZX1000, okay? So now we're going to say the RAS register. So we have RSI 64-bit, ESI 32-bit, SI 16 bits. Now this is similar to the RDI. They're kind of like cousins, except the RDI is for output. So so essentially, say we're moving memory from one place to another. The RDI will be this destination address, okay? But the RSI will be the input address, okay? So think of it like a a memcopy function, right? You have the input and the output. Yeah, RDI is used as the output address. RSI is the input address, okay? Used for string or data copying instructions for input. Okay, so I've explained to you all the registers that matter. Again, I don't expect you to completely understand the stack pointer as well as these string copying operations at this moment. By the end of this lecture, which is now, you should have a good understanding of the general purpose registers by this point. So if you don't, you should probably rewatch this video. So these are the general purpose registers, okay? The ones that are here essentially. These that I've highlighted are general purpose registers. So simply put, you can think of them as variables built into the CPU that always exist, okay? They always exist, and they're always named like this. You cannot change the names, but you can always set and read from them. And they're much faster than reading from memory. Okay, so that's all you need to know. Keep watching the course where we will explain more about the stack, and then these stack registers will make more sense to you, as well as these data copying registers. They'll make more sense as the course continues. Thanks for watching this free YouTube video teaching you a topic on assembly language. If you really like this course, you can even learn kernel development in the description and put those assembly skills to practice. Check the video description where you'll get a link to the paid course at Dragon's App, and you'll learn how to build your very own 32-bit protected mode kernel that's multitasking all from scratch.